Welcome back to Dad Bods and Hot Rods Garage. Today we're back on the 76 Pontiac Trans Am. This is part 2 of the series. Let's get to it. We have got to flare this broken brake line that goes into the new brake line. So when I took the old one off, the fitting was kind of welded to the line, and when I broke it loose, it snapped the fitting. So luckily there's enough line here I can re-flare it and put it back together. So that's what we're up against now. Okay, I don't know if you've ever used these before. This kit comes with the tools you need for flaring, right? So, and there are different sizes of these adapter pieces that do the single and double flares. So this one's too large to go in there. This one fits fine inside. So what you do is you set your tube in the flaring block, and you take this piece and use this edge right here, and that's how tall you make your tubing above the tubing tool. If you can see that or not. So it's just at that same size right there. And tighten down both sides of your flaring block. Tighten them down pretty good so it doesn't move. Then you take this tool and you give it the first flare. This is a double flare, right? So this goes over the block. So you put this piece in and it gives you your first flare. Crank it all the way down tight. And then peel it back off all the way out. Take this piece out. All right, so your flare looks kind of like a mushroom right there, like that. And then we'll put this tool back in and give it the second flare. And that should be it. And that should be your finished product. Nice double flare. Don't forget to put your fitting on before you start out the process, or you'll be starting over. Now before I bolt this into here, I'm gonna do something with this line, because I'm replacing this line with the rubber line for the fuel pump. So I'm going to try to take that off right around here. I'm going to cut it again right up here. Here's where I'm going to mount my filter, my first filter, and then rubber line. And then down to here, the fuel pump. And that's going to feed up to the front of the car, and there's going to be a filter at the Holley system, filter number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this line. Okay, there it is. It's all flared, it's all bolted back on, it's in place. This line's been cut and flared for the rubber end. The fuel pump's going to go here. Rubber line to a filter here, and then a rubber line to go back and connect back here at the tank. So I'm gonna go back up front and work on some of the stuff up there. Okay, so this line comes from the tank, it's a hard line, and this one ran over to the fuel pump and then up to the carb. I've interrupted that here where the factory line would come in. I'm putting my line on here, and this is the one that will go up and into feed the Holley. There we go. Now we'll go back up top and I'll run that around, connect it to the Holley. So that line's coming out here. I'm going to route it around to follow the return line that I've already ran from the Holley. You keep those together, run it around, and it's going to come up and tie in right here into the hallway. So, think. Goes down and under, down and under. I'm not going to cut it right here. This will be the return line from under the regulator back. Okay, those are in and done. That's in and done. I'll start running the line back for the return. I'm gonna run it right along beside the factory lines, all the way back to the tank. Right, so sorry I lost audio with my microphone at this point. But as you can see, I ran the fuel line from the turn line back. This is the feed line from the tank. This is the pre-filter before the pump, plumbing that in, and then from there it'll go down to the pump. This is the ground. The ground just goes directly to the chassis, and then there's a trigger wire from the Holley for it's a fused relayed 12-volt source for the pump that the Holley kicks the pump on. And I've ran that right along the frame rail, right along the existing fuel line to the Holley, and here I'm just wiring everything in together. Now I'm going to move back up into the engine bay and work on the spark plug wires. I've already started on them. I've done half of them. I bought the Taylor the Taylor 8mm. These are cut to fit. So I'm just going straight back through, firing order, right back where they were under this cap. And just run them like they were from the factory. So I got this side done. I'm gonna start on the other side. All right, I'll show you what I'm doing with these wires. These are your terminals. These are the boots. These two ends go into the spark plug. It's the old wire, the new wire. The old wire stops here. I'm going to cut it right there, the new wire. I'm going to trim it back about 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little longer. We're going to expose this wire. It's got a little sheathing around it too. And you fold it back. You put this into the crimp over, crimp into the terminal over. Kind of give it a little squeeze, nothing crazy. And you put it in your crimp tool. The crimp tool it says wire crimp. So it's got this spot here. You're going to want the open end of your terminal to go to the open end of the tool. Stop. As you can see, it crimps it down pretty good. Your wire's back in there, terminated good. Then you put your boot on, put it back on the car. Okay, those are all done and ran. New plugs, new plug wires. all set, all good to go. All right, now that I got all that stuff done, I'm laying out the wiring for the Holly. So here's the main plug. I've got it going through here. Going underneath the windshield wiper motor, comes up behind the brake booster, up to here. This is your, basically your input-output harness, and on this we're only going to be using the gray wire, which will feed the tach for the car, because we're going to interrupt the tach signal. This blue one is your fuel pump power. These two are power and ground from the battery terminal. Your pink is your 12-volt ignition to turn the Holly system on, and the white is your coil negative trigger. So there's several ways that you can wire in a Holly system, and what we're going to be using is the Holly system utilizing that HEI distributor. So with this system, you just plug in your connector. There's a yellow wire, see the yellow wire back there? That goes to the negative side of your coil. And your input-output connector, as you can see, your gray wire goes to the factory tach. Your negative wire on your coil, which on the HEI is a tach signal. So you're gonna swap your tach signals. The ignition wire I'm going to combine with this lead here on the distributor, and the tach wire here. This is the one I'm going to interrupt, connect to the yellow wire to this side, and this side to the gray wire for the car. So the yellow wire will give the tach signal to the Holly, and the Holly will then output the tach signal to go back to the tachometer in the car. All right, I gotta tighten up these belts. I left out a spacer on the power steering pump, so I gotta take that apart, put that spacer back in, and I can tighten up all these belts. So I get set up, you can watch me do that. You'll want like a 1/4 inch of deflection on your belts. Too tight and you'll mess up the bearings in your component, and too loose and they'll squeal. I don't like how that didn't tighten up very well. Okay, so we're just going to use a through bolt. That lock washer and the nut on the back. There we go. That's not going anywhere. Now the AC belt. But I think it'd be all right. I'm going to tighten all those bolts down too. There's a lot of them that I loosened up, so. There's a big cluster of wires between the alternator, the temperature sitting unit, and part of the harness that goes down to the starter. Just a big rat's nest of wires, so I cleaned those all up as well. I drilled a hole in the firewall for the cable to go through for the sniper's handheld, and I'm also going to run the 12-volt ignition wire through there and tie that into the fuse panel. I don't want to tie it in out here, so I'm going to tie it into the fuse panel inside the car. I'm reconfiguring some of the wires here for the Holly, since I ran that ignition wire into the fuse panel on the inside of the car. Okay, so for the 3.5 inch handheld on the Holly, this goes to the handheld itself, and this side is the harness side that ties directly into the Holly sniper over here. There's two of these. There's one on the harness right by all the plugs. They say not to use that one, use this one. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, moving right along, folks, moving right along. On the inside, I'm just going to run the cable for the sniper down and through and allow the owner to mount the Holly sniper wherever he wants it. I'll have it inside so we can access it. Okay, another day. Back on the Trans Am. Yesterday, my footage, I lost sound. I was using a wireless or a wired mic, and it, I don't know what happened, but I lost the sound bites. So I'm gonna go back through and show you what I have completed on the car and what's left to do. There's not much left for the most part. There's really not much. Okay, so I've run the fuel line from the tank to here. This is the 100 micron filter, and then this line from this side goes straight to the Holly. And from the Holly, it returns out to the adjustable fuel pressure regulator mounted on the fender well on the inside. And then this line is the return all the way back to the tank. So it just runs along the frame rail where the original line ran, and then so tied into the original line from the pump. Pump's wired, and then this line will run up and tie in right there where that filter is. And then that line goes over and it comes out from the feed of the tank at the top of the tank where the original line fed in. I gotta bolt that back in right there. But and this is the return line. I've got to tee into this line right here to put the return line on. That's one of the tasks for today. I got the rest of the line to go from here to the pump, so the feed will be done. The return needs to be completed here, and that'll complete and close the fuel system. All the brakes are bled. For the most part, they're all bled, and I gotta bleed them again by hand because the power bleeder that I used didn't get all the air bubbles out. Now to find the best location for the wideband O2 sensor, I figured this would be the best spot. And as I was putting this in, once again, I lost the connection with my microphone, so bear with me a little bit. Just do a little voiceover and some fast forwarding. It'll be good. Another issue is the O2 sensor. So I've drilled the hole for the wideband, and I went to put the clamp assembly on that Holley provides, but it's made for a 2-inch diameter pipe, and this is 1 7/8. So I got to modify how I'm going to make that connection. But okay, so what I've done is, for this O2 sensor, I cut a piece of channel iron and I'm going to use that as a spacer to try to give these clamps enough clamping force to get that clamp down. It still feels kind of loose. All right, now I think I got it. I'll put another strap of metal in there to try to make up some of that distance. And that seems to be working, giving me what I need. We'll see. That goes there. Okay, so the other end of the hose from the inlet of the pump will route up along the frame rail and connect here to the outlet of the 30 micron filter from the tank. Put a clamp on right there, and that'll hold her in place. I don't know if you can see what's going on in there or not, but the return line, this one, is going to go back to this vent line for the tank at the top. So that's the last of it. From fuel pump to filter to return. Return goes to that line. That line is the vent line that goes to the top of the tank. And it also pulls vacuum from the vacuum canister for the smog or whatever. And that's it. That's got it all done. All right, it's another day back on the Trans Am again. Last time we were here, we couldn't get the fuel pressure regulator to regulate the fuel pressure. So I called Holly. They told me to go through a few steps, find out what's what. And as it turns out, where I connected the return fuel line to the tank was one of these factory lines instead of having to drop the tank out. But it turns out it was too small a diameter and it was causing pressure. I gotta put in a bulkhead fitting for the return line, so I gotta pull the tank all the way out. I sprayed the bolts that hold the tank in with some PB Blaster, and I'm gonna crawl under there and see if I can get it to break loose. And as you can see, I got the first bolt out. The second bolt is coming out. I got all these lines right here I got to disconnect, and then the other side lines. I'm gonna go ahead and take this strap off. I've got all the lines disconnected. Okay, after much finessing and finagling and struggling, I've got her dropped down just about out. Gotta take this ground strap off up here. Right now she's out. I got the sending unit out. Although that looks really good. So what I'm gonna try to attempt is to put bulkhead fitting for the return right there if I can. Still gives me room to get this in and under and sealed, but I'm gonna check and see. Okay, so I was able to drill a hole in the actual sending unit and add the bulkhead fitting. It's gonna come out kind of at an angle, but I'll run the rubber hose along the feed line and drop it back in. All right, well, you can see we got the tank back in, got all the lines connected. All right, I got my fuel line interrupted from the filter. It's going to drain down this little drain pan. I've got my gas can set up, little cool Amazon electric pump. This works great for these kind of things. Just phenomenal. Like I said, I'm only going to put in a couple of gallons just to make sure that the system's clean, and then I'll put the rest of this in there when I go to start the car. I guess there is a fitting you can buy to attach this to your gas can. I don't have that, but this is pretty good for now. All right, next up, I'm gonna throw this battery in. And another nice thing about these AC Doco batteries is they've got the built-in handle. Whereas these had this clunky thing, but this one, pretty cool. It's a perfect fit. Alrighty. I got the battery bolted in. I don't have the Holly connected yet because I'm not ready for that yet. These are the bolts for that. I'm going to make a jumper wire from the positive, run all the way back to the fuel pump. Now that this is in and the system's grounded, the pump should just come on. Okay. Success, we're pumping out crappy fluid. Now that's looking much better already. We definitely don't want that nastiness in our gas, in the Holly system. Pump's flowing really good. I'm gonna consider that good. I'm gonna attach the line to the filter, run it, and adjust the pressure on the regulator. Fuel pressure's right on target. That's pretty smooth. Dial a little high. Ignition needs to be set a little bit. Give that throttle a little bit, flip. Yeah, that sounds good. Alright, air fuel ratio is pretty good. It's not in learn status yet. Idle's about 800. Miles are good. It's learning. It's going to bring me down to 14.7 for the air fuel. Everything seems to be working just as it should. I think next step is to check the brakes and take it for a drive. Well, I've got to put the wheels on. Check the brakes, put the wheels on. Okay, so got the timing set. The Holly's doing its thing. It's learning, and it's running really well. The coolant's topped off. Fuel pressure's set. All the lines have been ran. There's no leaks anywhere. The last thing I got to do is find a power while cranking under the dash fuse, which I found one. I got to have a different connector for it. So when you go to start it, the Holley's still powered while it's trying to crank. Other than that, we did find a leak in the high pressure power steering line. I'm gonna have to order one of those and replace that. All right, so next day we're back again. I got the power steering line. I ordered it yesterday, and when I picked it up today, I had them verify that it was for this car, and it said without AC. And the one with AC was a shorter and had different connections on it. And I thought, well, let me take this one, go ahead and order the other one. If this one works, I'll use it, send that one back. If not, vice versa. So I get here today and I'm looking around, and it looks like this is the right one. And the car is with AC. So I'm gonna pull some of this stuff apart so I can get to it and change that sucker out real quick. I want to bring in here and show you this real quick. So this line is original, and it too is rusted at the fitting and the line and would not come loose. I had to cut the line off to get it out of the gearbox. Okay, after much finagling, that new line is in, tightened down, belts are back on, tightened up. Next thing to do is to fire up the car, start filling it with some fluid and make sure that it doesn't leak. Listen to that thing fire up. Man, does she sound good? All right, well, bleeding the brakes was unsuccessful. We have a bad proportioning valve, so I'm going to have to let this soak with PB Blaster for a couple of days. I'm going to take the master cylinder off, most of this all apart to get to it, and see if I can get another proportioning valve ordered and get that replaced. So, I mean, it's got front brakes, but it doesn't have back brakes, and the pedal's pretty soft until we get the back one sorted. So, that's going to be our stopping point for today. All right, back on the car today. I got the old brake proportioning valve off. I had to use a lot of heat, a lot of PB Blaster, and work those lines back and forth real nice and easy so they didn't break. They were kind of frozen to the fitting, but with some heat and some PB Blaster and working them back and forth, I was able to get them loose. They're all in there. They're tightened up, but not super tight right now because I need a little wiggle room. I'm going to put the master cylinder back on, connect all these lines, tighten everything up, and start the brake bleeding sequence all over again. So hopefully this time we get better results. Okay, so proportioning valve has been replaced. Master cylinder's put back on. Everything's been bled. Got the air cleaner back on. Now it's just time to throw the wheels on. Put it on the ground. All right, she's back on the ground. I gotta put some air in the tires, tighten the lug nuts. I'm gonna fire it up, put the air cleaner back on. Gotta add some transmission fluid. Now for the final piece. All right, let's drive her around back. Let's see what the Holly has to say. Brakes are a little mushy. But they just need to be worn in a little bit. And Chris. That spider web way.
Yeah.
That one speaker in the back, that's kind of that's bumping back in the day.
That was factory option.
All right, everything seems to be good to go. Let's try a maiden voyage. Keep an eye on all the gauges and everything. Turn signals work, brakes are good. Yeah, the tires are flat spotted. They're wop, 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 wop. But man, she drives pretty nice. I mean, the steering is really tight. It's responsive in the throttle. Radio doesn't work. Horn works. Yeah, I'll put some air in those air shocks to raise the back end up a little bit, and I think I got it a little bit tall. It's riding a little bit stiff, but but we're driving a 76 Trans Am that hasn't been on the road in 7 years. And I think that's just amazing. It's incredible. It's great to have new technology in these old cars and how much better they perform with it. I'm really excited about this. I'm really happy with the Sniper system. It so far seems to be doing what it's supposed to do. It wasn't that hard to install. And yeah, the responsiveness is great. So if you're planning to put a Holley system in an older car, I suggest it's a good idea. They work really well. So I'm gonna spin this thing around to get her back. I don't have any plates or anything on it. Just want to test drive it and see how it does. And so far, it drives really, really good. So it's kind of like a time capsule. This car has 68,000 miles on it. And it's, like I said, it's pretty much all original. But I really like this car a lot. Can't wipe the smile off my face. It's really nice. Okay, thought I'd drive her around and see how it does. So I'm gonna take her back and park it. And that's gonna be it for today. Fuel pump's a little loud, but that's typical. We got a pressure with the oil, problem with the oil pressure sensor. It's fluctuating around like it's got a loose connection. But I know it's got good oil pressure. Otherwise this thing would be clattering and clunking and tires are pretty bad. I'm just shaking the wheel. It's too bad too because they only have like 30 miles on them. She's gonna need more gas. Anywho's, I'm gonna put her up. Well, there you have it. First time in the road in 7 years. She's got a whole bunch of new components. Holley Sniper EFI. It needs a couple of small things we'll be sorting out here soon, but it's almost ready for Travis to drive her back home. So now it's Tom's turn, I think, to go ahead and start the detail of this thing. Wow, what an incredible journey this was. What a beautiful car. What an awesome adventure. That's not the last of this series that you're gonna see. There's gonna be plenty more. I'm saying at least a couple more videos of this thing. So stay tuned. Dad Bods and Hot Rods.